My reading journal is definitely my favorite journal in my lineup currently, especially because I'm in a bit of a slump with my everyday journal. But something that makes this setup even more exciting is that May is bringing us the Goober Readathon. This is a reading challenge hosted by myself and my two friends, Monica and Rachel. So of course I needed to have a dedicated space for it in this setup. Rather than starting on the very first page of the setup, I'm instead flipping just a little bit further forward so that I can include a tip-in. Because this one is going to be flipping out to the side of the notebook, it means that I need to attach it to the outer edge of the page. This means having washi tape that sits half on top of the piece of paper I'm sticking in, with the other half wrapping around to the spread before this one, so that it has something to attach to. One of the nice parts about using white washi tape is that it blends in nicely with my dot grid paper, whether that be the paper of the tip-in or the paper of the notebook. This is only true though if you're using white paper, and I know that I want to do some side panel decoration that isn't going to be white, so if I didn't stick the tip in first, I'd end up with the washi tape sitting over the top of that coloured section, and it would be pretty obvious that it was there. That's what made sticking in the tip in first necessary, and it also means that that additional paper is there when I want to get underway with that spread. Flipping back though, the first layout we're going to be working on is my month in media. This is a space for me to keep a log of what I've been consuming in the month, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, or games, and when in particular I was consuming it. I don't often read a book in just one day, so while it's nice to have the date that I finished the book, I also like to have a look of when I was reading it. While I could just include the start day and the end day for any book, this also doesn't always work for me because it doesn't give me a great representation of how long something actually took me to read, because I don't necessarily read every single day. Or if I do read every day, I don't necessarily read the same thing. Let me know if you're the kind of person who can read multiple books on the go. I am slowly edging towards that territory, but only if I'm doing a fiction and a non-fiction book at the same time. Or if I am going to do two fiction books at the same time, I need them to be quite different to each other so I don't do myself a confusion. You'll see that I cut away the right-hand side of the spread, and that's because we're going to be including a Dutch door in here as well. Normally I would have my media consumed, or this month in media, all on one page, but I've been finding that I haven't really had enough space because I am including not just books, but also TV shows, movies, games. I've been finding that I often need more columns than is otherwise available if I try and fit all of the information just onto one page. That's why on the left-hand side of the layout, we have what's going to be the table section, which has letters A through Y across the top of the page, and then numbers 1 through 31 down the side. Essentially, each column represents a different piece of media, and each row represents a day of the month. For any of the days that I do read or watch or play a piece of media, I can just colour in a box underneath the relevant column and across from the relevant day. While letters A through Y are all good and well, that doesn't really tell me what they represent, so the right-hand side is a place to outline what each of those letters actually represent. So for instance, in April, A represented The Rookie Season 4, B was Devil in the Family, C was The Rookie Season 5, and then D was How to ADHD. I was considering possibly doing different colours for different types of media, so like a colour for books, a colour for TV shows, but I eventually decided against that because I like to keep the supplies that I use to fill in these layouts from day to day as simple as possible so I don't have to overload my pencil case with a bunch of different pens. In terms of the materials that I have used in this setup, they're all listed in the description box, and as you can see from the decoration, I went for a plant-related theme, very much related to the Goober Readathon because that's essentially the theme of the readathon. That's not to say you have to read plant books if you want to get involved, but we'll talk more about that when we get to the relevant layout. In terms of timing, from first to final touches, the media consumed layout took about 9.5 minutes, but before we get into setting up the other side of this layout, we have to talk about a problem. The problem being that I was going to be using this reading journal for the entire of the year, but come the end of just setting up for the start of May, I am this far through and only have this much left. I'm thinking that this journal is probably gonna only last me maybe another 2 months maximum, so it's time to start thinking about what I'm gonna move on to next. Thankfully, the sponsor of today's video, Typewriter, has me covered. Their recently released Moonlight Melody collection is absolutely gorgeous with some stunning colours, and I think that one of these might be my next reading journal. To be honest, I'm actually thinking about making 2 reading journals, one that's more of a yearly collections type journal, and another that's more of these monthly setups, so I'm thinking that one of them could be the gold vintage design that Typewriter has. If you're thinking ahead to your next reading journal, or just want to add a new notebook to your collection, then Typewriter is a great option option. You can use the link in the description box to jump over to their website and check out the goods. And if you're going to grab one for yourself, be sure to use code JashiiCorrin10 at checkout for 10% off. We love savings. Thanks to Tifosi for sponsoring today's video, and now we can flip over to set up what is going to be my challenges page. This is for any of the media related challenges that I'm undertaking for the year as a whole, rather than the month specifically. So we're not going to have anything related specifically to the Goober Readathon on here, but what we are going to have is things related to finishing my book club reads for the book club that I host, the Year of Goober Challenge, which is a close cousin of the Goober Readathon, but slightly different, the Year in Aldia Challenge from G of Book Roast, my peer pick, or 12 recommendations from friends and family, and my 25 and 25 for read and watched media. While these are annual challenges with multiple books in them, to make sure that I'm keeping up on tackling those challenges, I like to specify which books or other media I'm going to be consuming in the month to tackle those challenges. For the book club Year of Goober Challenge and Adventures in Aldia, this is one book per month as per either a prompt or whatever the book club decides to read. Whereas for my 25 and 25 and peer pick options, I like to give myself one or some options to tackle in the month to make sure that I don't fall behind on those challenges. Given that the peer pick is 12 recommendations from friends and family, that should be one per month for the year, but I am technically behind on that, so we might get to a point where I have to put in 2. For the 25 and 25, this is roughly on average 2 items from each of the 2 lists that I have, so 2 books and 2 watchable pieces of media, which is why there is a decent section dedicated to 25 and 25 on this layout. Normally this information would just be summarized on one page, usually on the right hand side of a spread that also contains the month in media, but by expanding it to almost a full spread, it meant that I could include 4 options for my 25 and 25 rather than just 2. We'll be going through what all of my selections were for the various books and TV shows and such at the end of the video, because right now we're really just focusing on setting up the layout. Now, one of the things that I like to do, especially on this challenges page, is have a little bit of decoration in between the book covers. You can see me putting that in now, but before we actually get the covers into the layout, it really does just look a little bit messy. I promise it won't look quite so weird once we put the covers in, but I just wanted to incorporate a little bit more of those vines that we have running down the right hand side of the layout. Making sure that I put these in the correct position so I wouldn't have any sticking out at weird spots was definitely a small challenge, but once those were in, it was just a case of filling in any of the blank space with a little bit more decoration. I'm primarily using some PET tapes for this because I thought they were absolutely perfect for our plant-based reading challenge for May. In terms of timing, the challenges page took about 13.5 minutes to set up. That doesn't include cutting down the Dutch door because that time was included in the last layout. But now as that one's done, it's time to flip on over and get onto the layout that's going to be for the Goober Readathon. I decided to first focus on getting the tip-in set up, which meant attaching the prompt list to the front side, and on the back I'll be summarizing the host TBRs. As said, this reading challenge is one that was designed by myself and my friends, or the hosts of the Bujo Buddies book club. This one is a free online book club that's held through our Discord space, and we'll also have a layout in this setup dedicated to that book club. But in terms of getting the prompt list into the journal, this was really just as simple as printing off the printable prompt list onto sticker paper, cutting it to size, and sticking it in. The host TBRs were a little bit more fiddly because I had to go and find the pictures for each of the books on our TBRs. Thankfully we only have 5 books each, but that's still 15 covers I had to go and source. Then size those appropriately, also print them off on sticker paper, cut them out individually, and stick them all in. Printing it on sticker paper does certainly save time though, because otherwise you have to then put an adhesive on the back of all the pieces of paper and then stick them into the notebook. I love sticker paper for just speeding the process up, and another place that I used stickers in this layout was for all of the headers. You'll probably have been able to tell that they're all in the same font. This is the font that we like to use for the Goober Readathon each year, so I thought it was a good opportunity to use the font for my headers in this monthly setup, that one being called American Typewriter. But underneath the tip-in, this is where I'm going to be writing out all of the prompts, just the kind of like little names of the prompts, not a full elaboration like we have on the front of the tip-in, and using this space to record which books I end up reading for each of those prompts. I'm not too sure at this stage if I want to go and write the book titles in before I've read them and kind of use it as a plan and then check it off, or if I just want to write it in as I go. I'm probably leaning towards the first one though, because the right hand side of this spread is where I'm going to be capturing the covers for all of the books I do read. or at least the books that I read during the month that are related to the readathon. So it's all good and well that this is my setup for the readathon, but what is the Goober Readathon? Well, Goober is our mascot, also known as Ghosty Goober, and they recently have become fascinated with plants and plant care. They've made themselves a little plant study guide, and our job as readathon participants is to help them get through their studies by reading books in May. Each of the books that we read in May can be tied to one of the prompts on Goober's study plan, and as we finish books in May and check those prompts off, we can earn points that helps level up Ghosty Goober's skills in plant care. Depending on how many points you achieve across the month, you can earn a Goober tier, those ones being a spooky spore, botanical bud, ghostly gardener, spirited sproutologist, or haunting herbologist. Yes, I did spend way too much time thinking about those terms so that I could have ones that were related to both plants and ghosts. This is very much an individual challenge. You do not have to complete enough books to fill out the entire of the study plan. It's more of a pick and choose kind of model, so tackle the prompts that you want and leave the ones that you don't. We of course have a separate video that goes over how it works and how to get involved. That one's linked in the description box below, or I'll also include it in the end screen so you can keep on this video and jump over there when it's done. We have some people who are fully planning out their TBR for the month ahead so that they can hit as many of the prompts as possible, and other ones who are more mood readers, so they're really just going to read whatever the heck they want, and then see which prompts they can check off when they're done. At this stage, I'm kind of doing a mix of the two. I obviously have my 5-book TBR, and I have particular prompts those are tied to, and a couple of other prompts that I think I'll probably try and tackle, but I do like to keep my options open just in case something jumps onto my radar and I want to read that before getting in to read other things. In terms of timing, this layout took the longest to set up, coming in at about 25 minutes. That time doesn't include sticking in the tip in though, so probably closer to 27. Throughout the month I will be spending more time on this layout to stick in the covers of the books I read, and also writing in my reading plan on that space underneath the tip in. I of course had to stick in a little ghosty goober into the corner of the page, because this is their readathon after all, we're just taking part. If you wanted to get involved, then we would love to have you with us. This one is a free reading challenge, you don't have to be part of the Bujo Buddies book club to take part. As mentioned before, we have the introductory video with all of the information in the description box, and I'll also link it on that end screen card. Even if you don't consider yourself to be much of a reader, this is designed to be flexible. You can do as much or as little reading as you want. Flipping over to the next page though, this is where we're going to have a space for our Bujo Buddies book club read for May. I like to dedicate at least one page in my setup to what this book club book is going to be, and include spaces for capturing the information about that book. So things like title, author, what the read theme or kind of prompt for the month was, like why did this book get selected in particular, and then also some other information like stats from the book club, other recommendations that were made for that read theme, how people found the book in terms of average ratings, and also capture any discussion questions that we have for it. While I was previously doing a full spread for this kind of layout, so having half of it be dedicated to all of this kind of information and then the other half be dedicated to my general thoughts, because I also go and do reading collages, or I guess media collages for anything that I consume within the month, I was already doing one of those for the book club book, so it didn't really make a lot of sense to kind of duplicate that information just so I could have it here as well. To combat that information duplication, I decided to make this one more of a kind of fill in at the start of the month kind of page, or at least fill in once rather than fill it in once, then read the book, then come back, fill it in some more. Or essentially this one is more about kind of bite-sized information pieces, like general recommendations, the statistic, the specific discussion questions, but not any elaboration about my thoughts or responses to those. At the time of setting this up, the May read hadn't quite been selected yet. That one is always selected via a poll over on our reading community space, but at the end of this video we are going to stick in a cover picture for the winner and for the runner-up. As mentioned before, our book club is free to join, so if you wanted to get involved with a low-stakes book club, one that is very chill, you don't have to read every single book. We do one per month, but if that monthly book isn't for you, it's cool, we'll just see you next month. You're more than welcome to join us over in our reading community. That one is also linked in the description box below, and even if you don't want to join the book club, you can still come over and join the reading community. We do have a bunch of people in the server who are just there to chat about books and reading journals. Now, in condensing my book club read space to one page, this means that I have the right hand side of the layout for something. Last month I set this up as a pile of possibility space, or effectively just another little space to record books or other pieces of media that I might get to if I wasn't really feeling anything that was on my TBR. But because I'm going to be tying a lot of my reads to the Goober Readathon, having a pile of possibilities isn't really a duplication of that information, but it just felt a little bit redundant, so I'm not too sure what to include on this page. At the moment, I'm just putting in some decoration, so running some of the PET along the bottom, and then a little bit more of those vines along the top. One idea is possibly using it as a quote space, but that's something that I like to include on my monthly summary, which is going to be the next spread we set up, so I'm really not too sure. If you have any thoughts about what I could use this page for, I would love to hear them because I'm kind of at a bit of a loss. But in terms of timing, this spread took about 13 minutes to set up from first to final touches. We still have to get in and stick in the covers for the book club winner and the runner-up and write in the information. But with that one ready to go, it's time to flip on over to what's going to be my May recap space. The specific format that I have of my monthly reviews is essentially the same every single month, but that's because it works really well for me. In fact, of all of the layouts that I include in my monthly reading journal setups, this is the one that works the best. I personally think it's a really nice balance between functional or like kind of, information capturing and then the decorative stuff. And once it's completely filled in for the month, it'll also have my little stat graphs, which I absolutely love. Those were one of the things that in doing these monthly setups, I knew I wanted to have. We're not actually going to put the graphs in yet because we haven't even started May at the time of filming this. And I like to make those graphs on the computer and print them off rather than trying to do the kind of like geometry myself. Although I'm pretty good at drawing graphs, pie graphs are where I fall down, because I'm a bit of a persnickety biscuit. I am a little bit particular about how things look, and if the circle isn't actually a circle, or if the center isn't actually at the center, it will annoy the ever-loving heck out of me. So doing it on the computer is just a way to safeguard myself in that. In terms of the general structure of this layout though, I decided to start on the bottom of the left-hand page with what is going to be my quote space. I don't like to collect a lot of quotes from the things that I read, so I never really need a very large space for this, but having a little space just to capture some of the highlights from the month, that works well for me. Above that one though, I like to have a highlight section, so selecting 4 pieces of media from across the month that stood out as special. This could be because I absolutely loved them, maybe they were like a 5-star read or watch, or it could be special for some other reason. For instance, one of the ones that I had for March was Mickey 17, not so much because I absolutely loved the movie or anything, like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't a 5-star watch. It was more so it was a date night with Vogel and it felt a little bit special because we were picking up my wedding ring. I like to limit myself to 4 items here though, so I have to pick from whatever media I consumed across the month and think about which ones were the most special. But then above this, I like to put in a media breakdown space. This is just to show how many books did I read, how many movies did I watch, how many TV show seasons did I watch, and how many games did I play. While I like to do the books in terms of how many I've finished, and also the movies, when it comes to the TV shows and the games, it's just how many I partook in. I don't have to have played the game to completion or watched the TV show season to completion either. The right hand side of the layout though is another one for statistics. This is where I like to include those little pie graphs, in particular for formats, genres, and ratings, with those ones being about my reads rather than other types of media. For ratings, I don't put in a key ahead of time because I'm not too sure what ratings I'm going to give my books for the month, so going and outlining 10 different colors that I could use for the 10 different ratings seems a little bit unnecessary when there are probably going to be a lot of those colors that just don't end up getting used. But I do end up putting a little average rating section down there so I can see what my average rating for books was. In terms of genres, there are only 3 main genres that I actually keep track of, those being romance, fantasy, and self-help, and then I capture any other genres in an other category. So far, I don't think I have had to use it once, but maybe next month will be the month that I do. In terms of formats, this is thinking about whether I read the book as a physical book, a digital book like an ebook, an audiobook, or some kind of mixture between multiple. There is a very small threshold here where it's like, okay, if I listen to maybe half a chapter as an audiobook in a 60-chapter book, but otherwise read it as an ebook, I'll just record that as an ebook. But if a decent chunk of it was done as an audiobook, with the rest of it being an ebook, then that one would get captured in mixture. It's kind of based on count feeling rather than specific mathematical equations, but I've actually been quite interested in this section and how it's been different across each of the months of the year so far. Previously, I have been very much a digital reading kind of person, like very much in the space of ebooks, but this month I've been getting into a lot more audiobooks and also some physical books, which has been interesting to see. The space at the top though is my at-a-glance statistics, and here I like to record how many pages I read across the month, how many minutes of TV or movies did I watch, how many series did I read from, and how many standalone books did I read. There are probably other statistics that I could track in terms of the other types of media I record in this journal, but I don't feel particularly pressed to do so. While I do like stats and keeping track of things like that, I need to remind myself that if I'm not really using the information, it doesn't really need to be recorded. I don't need to just record these things for the internet. Everything that I have in here is something that is of personal interest to me though. The final touches on this layout was to add in some of those headers, and I must say I really like how this recap space turned out. I mean, as mentioned, it is kind of the layout that works the best for me in these reading journal setups, but I love the color palette and I thought that the little stickers were really lovely. I like the panel of decoration down the right hand side, which will eventually get covered up just a little bit by those pie graphs. But now as that one's set up, it's time to flip back and stick in the covers for the things that I'm going to be consuming next month. Or at least the ones that I plan to. For the Bujo Buddies book club, we're going to be reading Dungeons and Drama by Kirsty Boyce. For the Year of Goober challenge, I've got The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw by Sarah Cannon. For my peer pick, or 12 recommendations from friends and family, I have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. And for the Year in Aldia challenge, I need to read a dystopia, so I picked Catching Fire by Susan Collins. For my 25 in 25 lists, I have Start With Why by Simon Sinek, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, Getting Things Done by David Allen, which I've been meaning to read for ages, and then one watchable being the series The Perfect Couple. Securing those ones into the journal, I figured that for the 25 and 25 lists, I'd focus more on books so that I could use those for the Goober Readathon. Flipping over though, I don't have anything I want to add to the Goober Readathon space at this stage. I still need to plan my books, but for the book club layout, I need to stick in the winner and the runner-up. As said, the winner is Dungeons and Drama, so I can stick that one at the top, and the runner-up was Fable for the End of the World by Ava Reed. That one getting stuck in at the bottom. Outside of the book club book, I won't necessarily read the specific books that I've stuck in. A lot of them are prompt based, so I could change my mind when the month rolls around, but I like to go in with a little bit of a plan so I at least have some options for what would work. I'm feeling really good about my setup for May though, and am so excited about the Goober Readathon. If you would like to get involved, remember it is a free challenge, it's just for fun, and there are no prerequisites. You can read as much or as little as you want, and the video on screen gives you more information about how it works and how you could jump into it with us. If you're not so keen on that, but you do want to see more reading journal inspiration, then all of the previous videos we have for this reading journal are in the playlist at the bottom. That one includes setups, reading wrap-ups, and anything else, so click or tap on either of those and I'll see you over there.